Okay, quick video of the notes here over the next essential question. It's essential question number 8. Don't worry about what the notes say at the top. The essential question is, why were the Articles of Confederation created and why did they fail? Ultimately, the Articles of Confederation is our first national government. They were created because we didn't have a government anymore. We'd just broken away from England, and therefore we needed a new government. We already know what a confederation is. It's a weak government where the states have the power and the national government is only there for protection. And so why did they fail? Because we set them up to fail. We didn't want to have a strong national government. We were scared of what we just broke away from England with. And if you don't have a strong national government, your government is going to fail. All right, I'm not going to spend much time explaining these notes. This page of notes here gives you a cartoon that you'll want to look at that just explains how the states felt about themselves. They felt that their state was its own individual nation, and that's what they cared about. Because of that, they made the good governments the state governments. If you look on the right-hand side of this page of notes, it explains what these governments have. And what you should notice is that these governments back then in the states were very much like our national government now. So these state governments were set up to succeed, but in the national government, all the states really wanted was a national government that would keep them together long enough to win the war and then let the states do what they needed to do. To set that up, they created a confederation, and here's the diagram we've seen many times in this class that shows all power comes from the states. The national government is not strong, the states are. It's a loose organization of states that allows the national government very few powers, the states have most. In the Confederation government that our nation set up, it had two goals: provide defense for the states, protect us from the British, help us win the war, and the second one was keep the power in the hands of the states. The states needed to be powerful. That was the whole goal of a confederation, and we were scared of a strong national government and a strong leader. We didn't want to have a king and a monarchy like we just broke away from. This slide here shows what the national government could do. Congress was mainly given powers to take care of foreign matters. You can see here that they could declare war, they could sign treaties, they could even raise an army, but really all they could do to raise an army was ask the states to give them troops, because over on the right-hand side of this slide, you can see that Congress, the national government, was not allowed to raise taxes, which means they have no money to support an army. And also, even though the national government could sign treaties with other countries, they could not regulate trade or tariffs between our states and those countries. The Articles of Confederation was not going to last. There were just too many weaknesses. On the last slide, we just had some of those with no power to tax and also no power to regulate commerce. This page here shows some of the other weaknesses as well. We also mentioned there was no power to draft an army. They could only ask the states for soldiers. Also, there were no national courts. There were state courts and there were local courts, but there was no national court, so any dispute between states could not be settled unless they went to war. It was very hard to pass laws, as you needed 9 of the 13 states to pass a law for it to take effect. And even if it did take effect, states did not have to follow laws. Congress had no power to enforce these. The final weakness was that if the states wanted to change any of these weaknesses, it was super hard to amend the Articles of Confederation, as you needed all 13 states to approve an amendment. As we know in government, it's almost impossible to get everybody to agree. So as the government followed the Articles of Confederation from the Declaration of Independence until the 1780s, we finally realized something needed to be done. This government just wasn't working. There were too many weaknesses. And the final thing that showed something needed to be done was something called Shays' Rebellion. You can read about that here on this page of notes. Although the Articles of Confederation are often called a failure, there were some successes. It did keep the states together long enough to win the Revolutionary War, which was its #1 goal, to keep the states together for protection. And another positive was the creation of the Northwest Ordinance, which you can read about on this page. Once you're done looking at these notes, at the end of them is the answer key to this worksheet you see here. I'm just going to include the answer key, and you can brush up on the information these notes had in them. And then there are 2 assignments. One is a worksheet over the Articles of Confederation. You just have a short reading and I think 5 or 6 questions. And then there is a chart that you have to look at that will ask you why we wanted that weakness in the Articles and what would be a problem caused by that weakness. It also has a little reading on Shays' Rebellion, and it just is going to do a nice job of summing up all the Articles info. Those 2 assignments will be due by next Sunday. Thanks.